ahead. And we can't be playing from behind. We need to be ready for any blow that can be blown in our direction. We have to guard and gird up now. Pavilion, we have to do that now. The things that have been coming against us, they have been constant and they've been consistent. And it appears that the enemy has enacted a shock and awe campaign against us. You all remember the shock and awe campaign? I don't know if y'all remember. I remember I'm into politics, so I followed that. After 9/11, President Bush gave the green light for our military to throw everything in the kitchen sink at Iraq and Afghanistan. It was a consistent bombardment of missiles, bombs, drones, and our ground troops went in and unleashed a fury that they had never seen before. And this is exactly what the enemy is attempting to do with us. He started out with the small stuff. Different things breaking down here in the building. And before we could even get in it good, he used a tenant next door to try to stir up strife by making some false allegations against us. He saw that that wasn't going to work. So he moved on to a little closer to our pastor's heart. During the kickoff celebration, our pastor made great efforts. And he made these lavish programs. And he invited pastors and congregations that he supported faithfully. Just knowing. He just knew that they was coming to support him the way that he supported them. But he found that to be not so. So the devil tried something else. That didn't get him down. That didn't keep him from going. He began to use people outside the church. Outside of our church, but in the church, but outside of this church. To start running their mouth, talking about what they didn't know. It's a dangerous thing to talk about what you don't know. The enemy put out a rumor that we weren't COGIC. He put out a rumor that the building wasn't insured. And people just are running with the rumors and running their mouth. But our pastor, being the man that he is, confronted it head on. And it put a momentary pause to all that foolishness. So the enemy saw that that wasn't going to work. And it would just so happen that during this time, the Lord saw fit to call Mother Jackson home. Now this is not the work of the enemy, but the enemy can come in when we're in sorrow. He can use that as a weak point and slither in. And we're in such a vulnerable place in those moments that it's easy for the devil to move into the exposed areas of our lives and have us making bad decisions. He can have us acting out of character. But this didn't happen either. The enemy couldn't use his grandmother's transition to glory in any way to affect the vision, to affect the dream, and to keep the ministry from going forward. So since he couldn't do this, he decided I'm going to come at him a different way. If I get my hands on him, I'll be successful. So he attacked his body. He exploited areas in his health that needed some improvement. Pastor has been ripping and running for years and going and going and going. And I want you to notice that I said the enemy exploited or attempted to exploit areas that needed improvement. Because he doesn't rest. Because he doesn't, he needs to stay home and maybe turn some engagements down. But he attempted to exploit these areas. And yes, we all want him to settle down. But the enemy attempted to exaggerate the issue. And as you can see, that did not work. Our pastor made some small improvements and made some small concessions. But he kept on. And we're grateful to God for that. And so the enemy saw, okay, that's not going to work. And so I have to come out a different approach. Since this ain't working, the enemy kept going We have to